Welcome to the Burn Boot Camp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits. Not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Boot Camp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to the Burn Boot Camp podcast. How are we feeling today, panel?
Feeling good.
Fantastic.
Ready to rock and roll? HQ crew. We got Mare here. Mare's going to introduce herself in a minute, but today we have some storylines that are really exciting. Can Cheerios cause cancer? We're gonna continue the storyline that the food babe, Vani Hari, who is here in Charlotte, is uncovering. She's been working on this for a while. We're gonna kind of take a thread and go and follow her work. Navigating celiac disease. There's no S, right, Mare?
Correct.
There's no
It's all
S.
plural.
Celiac disease. And top ways to keep your mind sharp from one of my favorite neuroscientist authors of all time, Dr. Wendy Suzuki. We got to get her here on the podcast. I talk about her book, Happy Brain, Happy Life, all the time. And I'm super excited to be here with you guys on November 20th. Morgan, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. As you guys know, if you've been watching or listening to the podcast, November is my favorite month. I get to celebrate my birthday, another year of life.
How's it feel to be
and
37?
Feels great. And
We're now the same age again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
It was nice while it
11 more
lasted.
months. Yeah. And Thanksgiving is actually my favorite holiday. So it trumps Christmas, and probably just because I love cooking and just love the day of Thanksgiving. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. We got Bryce, we got Mare Kaiser on the podcast. I know you guys are going to hear from her, and I'm excited to dive into these topics.
I am also excited for Thanksgiving. I don't love cooking, but I do love eating.
Yeah.
And I sure do my best to support while others are cooking. Just through like a glance up from the football game, over
Here
my
comes the
shoulder.
Lions plug.
Lions.
Here's the
Yeah,
Lions
let's
plug.
go.
Yeah.
Lions play every Thanksgiving, which makes it extra special.
Do they
They're-
just get that? Was that built into their NFL contracts?
I'm not sure the details, the
Got it.
contractual details, but
Okay.
I believe it is the Lions and Cowboys. Am I making that up?
Always?
So they were obviously
both-
someone has to play both those teams. They
Yeah.
don't play each other every
Yeah.
year, but they those two, I believe, do play every Thanksgiving. So hopefully that never changes. I'll have to dive into the contracts that they signed just to make sure I can count on that the rest of my
Prepare
life.
Do you want to know?
yourself.
You got it up?
Yeah, you want to know why?
Okay.
The Detroit Lions Thanksgiving tradition dates back to 1934 when team owner George A. Richard started it as a way to attract more fans and more attention to his then struggling franchise. Richard, who also owned a radio station, leveraged his connections to secure a nationwide broadcast deal with NBC, allowing the game to reach audiences across the country. The idea worked, drawing a record of 26,000 fans to Detroit University's Detroit Stadium, which apparently was the Lions Stadium at the time, establishing which would then become an annual event. And the Cowboys then joined this in 1966 when the NFL was looking to expand its Thanksgiving Day game. So apparently the Lions started the tradition.
Wow,
and
that's
the
pretty cool.
Cowboys are copycats.
Yeah, well, and
30
they're
years
now
later.
America's team as well.
Are
so,
they legacied in though? Does it say anything about that or?
Roger,
No.
if you ever mess
Any
with
year.
that, if you ever mess with the Lions Thanksgiving tradition, you're going to have a lot of very upset people. The
Yeah.
Lions are America's team now. Cowboys, you had a good run, but give us one Hard Knocks and a couple good seasons, and Lions are now America's favorite team. And I'm also curious if that marketing stunt was enough to pull Devin over from being a Vikings fan. I don't really think you're actually a fan. You'd claim to be a fan, but
Oh, yeah. Well, I claim to be a Minnesota Vikings fan only because Randy Moss was my favorite football wide receiver of all time. And my uncles and my dad were super annoying about the Lions. They would be like, as soon as they win one game, they would just
which was usually the whole
Never.
season.
yeah,
That was it.
never. The 0-16 season was the worst. Anyways,
But I feel like you appreciate a good marketing strategy paying off more than any catch in the end zone, correct? Does that make you a Lions fan?
the Detroit Lions did miss one Thanksgiving game since they
Okay.
started the tradition in 1934, and this happened in 1939 and 40.
Okay.
When they were canceled due to lack of national broadcast availability
Okay.
caused by
Okay.
scheduling conflicts.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
We don't have that problem
good
anymore.
little run.
No.
Mayor,
All right.
what do you got going on for
Meredith,
Thanksgiving?
Welcome.
I love Thanksgiving. I like the little collective pause to give you the reason for the season before you go into Christmas.
Yeah, that
I love
too.
cooking
Yeah.
too. But I just love any reason to get around a table with people that you love and just put your phones aside, put your work aside, and just like look each other in the eye and break bread. Not gluten-free bread, of course. Yeah.
So, Mare, why don't you give a little intro to yourself
Okay.
and tell the people what you're excited about to speak about today, because celiac disease is something that is right up, part of your world every single day. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Meredith Kaiser. I'm super excited and a little nervous to be here today, not going to lie. Back in 2020, I was hired by the coolest marketing agency, Burn Media Co.
Woo!
Shout out. I
Your
was
hat's
hired.
sick, by the way. If you
Thank
all watch
so
it on
much.
YouTube, Burn
Thank
Media Co.
you.
hats.
That's
We need to
right.
sell these online somewhere.
Yes,
Because we could plug that
absolutely do.
right now and probably
Yes,
at
you can
least
also find
50.
us on Instagram at Burn Media Co. and we will hook you up. So shoot us a DM. Bryce, thank you for repping
Yeah.
today. So they were established in 2017. I was hired by Morgan and Devin in 2020 as their brand manager at the time. And now, almost 5 years later, I'm the director of client success for Burn Media Co. So I get to oversee all of our account managers, and we get to serve our franchise partners and small businesses. So we get to help make their businesses successful, which is really meaningful to us. I'm originally from Michigan. I went to Western Michigan University. I
Boo.
didn't
Go
know Morgan at the time, but that's right. Go
Boo.
Bronco. Oh, whatever. But this brand has really been a cornerstone in my life, like really in reflecting on what I wanted to share. It's just been a constant in the last 5 years when everything else kind of wasn't. So I've had all 3 kids since I started with Burn. I got a 2-for-1. So I had twins last year. But really through like navigating grief and loss in my life and changes and getting married and having all the kids and all these things, Burn was always there. And thinking back on that, like at those times when I didn't have things I could control, like being in a high-risk pregnancy with twins, and they really scare you in a high-risk pregnancy, and there's a lot to be fearful of. But I kept reminding myself, like, I do something really hard every day. Like that 45 minutes, it never gets easier. It gets easier to show up, but the workout never gets easier. And being able to do that while I was growing 2 humans, I was like, wow, I can do anything. And I literally went to camp 4 days a week until I couldn't tie my shoes because my pitting edema was so bad. I was like, I can only wear like hospital slippers at this point. And my husband was putting like compression tights up to my butt, like to just help with the swelling. And I was like, yeah, I can't wear pants anymore, so I probably can't show up to the gym. But it's just been it's been a cornerstone in my life for the last half a decade now. And having mentors like Morgan and Devin and my boss, Mayor Bird, it's just been everything to me. So thank you guys, and thanks for having me today. What else do I want to share? So I've got 3 girls, Ryan, Sloan, and Greer. And then my husband, Patrick, he's a Burn bro. We both work out at Burn Belmont. And he's arguably Devin's biggest rival in pickleball
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Not for
He
long.
Bryce
brought
is
me
coming for him.
into the game, and
Yes.
then I played a lot and got really good really fast.
Yes.
And now they're all coming after
Oh,
me.
did you?
That's right.
Did you? Is that objective? How are you saying that? What's that based on?
Well, not losing games.
Okay.
Another
Based
intro
on
of
wins.
pickleball. I think this is like the 4th in a row we've talked about Devin's pickleball game.
Well,
I
I'm
know.
working on it. I need to have a hobby, but thanks
That's
to
right.
Patrick for getting me into
That's
the
right.
game.
You're welcome. I'll
I
share
love
that
that,
with him.
Meredith. Thanks for sharing.
Of course.
You guys, we have an amazing show today. Before we do follow some of these stories, especially the Cheerios one I'm excited to talk about today, we have a few things happening in the Burn world. It's Black Friday. The Black Friday special is going on right now through the end of the month. So you can unlock your Black Friday exclusive Black Friday offer and put the power of Burn Bootcamp in your corner. As an added bonus, if you become a member, you will also get 30 days for free of our online Burn On Demand platform. This offer runs through November 30th, so make sure to click the link in the show notes to find a location near you to take advantage of our Black Friday deal before it's gone. Sign up, join the gym. We want you to be here taking care of yourself during the holidays. This is there's no better way to do it. And don't wait till January. Everybody wants to wait until January, until the holidays are over in order to start, their health journey. And if you've been thinking about it, then you should jump on it, right? Because stop thinking, start doing. Take advantage of this. Black Friday is here all month of November.
And let me just say, too,
please.
in the past with Burn Bootcamp, we haven't done it for the full month of November. This is the first time we are kind of opening up these deals to the whole month. And I would just encourage you, if you're listening, as a mother, you're constantly thinking this time of year, okay, Christmas gifts and all the Black Friday deals, and you never think about yourself. You put yourself last on that list. And so we want to encourage you today to check these deals out and put yourself first on that list for the year of 2025. Get a jump start of prioritizing your health, your fitness, and just your mental strength as well. So we're excited to see, who joins us in this full month of November, since this is the first time we've opened these Black Friday deals up, and the added bonus of our 30 days of our on-demand. So Devin, share a little bit about our on-demand and what that is and what they're going to get for those 30 days.
So if you have the Burn Bootcamp app, then you have access to, at the very least, check out Burn Bootcamp on demand and our free trial there. But it's so important during the holidays to stay on track, right? Because we have like November, Thanksgiving through really New Year's, and we can kind of lose those months. That's like a whole month. That's like 6 weeks. So many of us, we modify too far off the healthy path when, it's okay to modify off and come right back, but you've done so much work for the last 10 and a half months. Let's not throw it away with travel and all the things that are going on. So Burn On Demand is right there in your back pocket. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is my own personal Keep Moving Club. All right. We have our streaks that are alive. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you can see my screen, but otherwise I'll explain what this is to you. It's 50, 100, 150, 200, or 250 camps in an entire year. I'm on track for about 175 right now, which is a little bit more than 3 times a week on average throughout the whole year. And this last November, kind of December timeframe is when I'm really trying to kick it up and be consistent and finish strong. It's about how you finish the year, not how you start the year. And that's the mentality that we really want to drive home with all the products that we're creating. So whether it's supplements or Burn Bootcamp meals or on demand, we know the holidays are busy and we want to meet you right where you're at. So that's our credo for this holiday season. Keep going, keep moving. Do not let yourself fall behind, because it is a decision that you get to make when you wake up in the morning. All right, guys, make sense? Morgan, what's your kind of like battle cry for November, December here as we're getting into the end of the year?
I mean, I think I said it, just getting a jump start. I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions because I just think that they end up falling flat within a couple months or even weeks for some people. So for me, it's just start the routine now. Like, don't wait, because this is where things start to pile up. The holiday parties and, the extra food with Thanksgiving and everything with Christmas. And so starting your healthy journey and your routine can just kind of help combat some of that, those bad habits that you can create at the end of the year.
38 more camps for me. That's my rallying cry for the holiday season. I'm at 212, 38 more to go. How many days we have left? What's the day? I don't know. Usually I'm good on the math and I usually have it prepared, but final stretch, I'm going to hit 250. It's going to take some extreme circumstances to take me off that path.
You can do it.
Which I do not foresee. So
nice.
That's
got this.
Way to go.
my vision.
Love it.
What about you?
I'll hit 150 this week. So my goal would be, what's an attainable goal? What do you think?
So if you had, let's just say, how many more opportunities left? 45?
Yeah.
45 or so? Yeah. So, I mean, you might be able to get to 200.
57 days.
57 days?
with some maybe quick camps at home when my family's there. I could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but listen, guys, 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, we just want to keep you moving.
Yes.
Like,
All the numbers, we're confusing people right now.
No, they know what it is. They know what it is. Open that app. It's right there, the Keep Moving Club. We track all the camps that you have. So keep it going. It's about what you can gain during the holiday season, not what you need to lose or stop doing. All right, keep moving, keep going. All right, so we have a story that I'm really excited to show you today. This one comes from Sabrina Holman, Wisconsin. Sabrina had so graciously and vulnerably sent in her story. So we were going to roll that video. If you'd like to send your story in, podcast@burnbootcamp.com. We have producer Chelsea behind the scenes waiting to talk to you to show you how to do that. But I want to roll Sabrina's story. This is powerful. Go ahead.
My name is Sabrina. I have been a member of Burn Bootcamp Pullman for a little over 2 years, and this is my story. I started struggling with my weight when I was in high school, and I developed an eating disorder. I had such an unhealthy relationship with food that stemmed from a time in my life when we were poor and homeless, and we didn't always have food. After years of living in that, the food insecurity that I struggled with was severe. Once we got out of that situation, I started binging, and then I would make myself throw up so I wouldn't gain any weight. Eventually, I started doing drugs, and I would still binge, but I stopped making myself throw up. And after years of that, the weight just kept increasing. Once I got my life together, I started on what felt like a never-ending journey to lose weight. I did all the fad diets, I took all the appetite-suppressing pills, and I tried and failed multiple times to stick with the fitness routine. Eventually, I just gave up altogether until burn. When I started at burn, I was like 3.5 months postpartum with my twins. I was pretty overweight, I was incredibly unhealthy and unhappy, and I felt lost and lonely, and I just had no idea how to get myself to where I wanted to be. I'd seen burn through social media over the years, and I really wanted to give it a try, but I was so scared. My social anxiety was through the roof every time I thought about it, and I just couldn't do it. Eventually, I called in and I talked to somebody so that I could ask questions and get an idea of how it worked and what I could expect my first time coming in. The woman that I talked to on the phone was so kind and encouraging and reassured me that my babies would be well taken care of in Child Watch. It took me a few more weeks to get the guts up to come in, but there was a 4-week promo and I just got myself here. After those 4 weeks, I signed an 18-month contract, and then when that was up, I signed another one, and I will sign it again and again as the time comes. Burn really has changed my life. I've lost just over 50 pounds, which has been amazing, but I think my most favorite part has been all the muscle that I've gained. When I started here, my babies couldn't sit up, and now they run to the window and watch me work out. They do push-ups with me at 2.5 years old. They're going to grow up watching their mom be strong and healthy, and they're going to know how to do that for themselves, which is so important because I was always so terrified that my issues with food and nutrition would run over to them. Our head trainer, who is amazing by the way, had been asking me to share my story for a while, and I just kept feeling like I wasn't worthy enough. Like I hadn't achieved enough, I wasn't skinny enough, I wasn't strong enough. It was just this thing that goes off in my brain before the reasoning sets in. I know that I have a lot to be proud of. I've worked really hard to get to where I am, and I know it's not about a number on the scale or how small I am. If you're watching this, I want you to know that you're worthy too. You are worth showing up for. You are worth putting yourself first. And you are worth giving yourself the grace and time it takes to make changes. And when you come to burn, you're not doing it alone. You are encouraged and championed and supported. This community and the friendships I've made have been equally as life-changing as the physical changes. And had I let myself stay in that fear and comparison trap, I wouldn't have any of it at all. So if you're feeling lost or lonely or unsure where or how to start, come to burn and know that those steps in the door will be the hardest that you take. But after you've done that, you never have to do it alone again.
Wow. Oh my goodness, Sabrina, thank you for sharing your story. Listen, what I picked up on that I wanted to share with everybody as I listened to Sabrina just go through her amazing journey is that she didn't stop when strategy A, B, C, and D, and E didn't work. She tried things over and over and over. And most people, Jordan, you ever seen that graphic where it's like people are like digging for gold and they've dug such a deep hole? Try to find one of those. Just type in keep digging for gold graphic. And I want to see this visual because I think it's so important. You know, meeting with thousands of members, just like Sabrina over the years, so many people just tried the same strategies over and over and over and over and over and over. And then they've said, I've tried everything. And really they've tried like 5 or 6 things repeatedly. And they've just given up all hope and all encouragement because they end up working so hard for like no return on their effort or their energy. And I'm always reminded in these situations of that graphic where there's this like little cartoon and he's digging for gold and he's dug like this huge tunnel and he's almost there and you can kind of see this x-ray of the hole that he's digging and just like 3 more swings of the hammer or the axe, you're going to strike gold. It's just trying a little bit harder, a little bit more strategy, never giving up. This is why people say, don't give up. It's not cliche. It's a strategy. Not giving up is a strategy. It's something that is a decision that you have. And what she did, she not only didn't give up, she just kept switching up her strategy, right? Because something eventually is going to work. And I just wanted to commend Sabrina for that because, yeah, man, so many people bang their head against the wall and turn around and ask somebody else why they're bleeding. It's like, because you're banging your head against the wall, right? Like, let's stop doing that if you don't want a headache anymore. Yep. Mayor, what are your thoughts on that when you hear Sabrina's story?
Oh, Devin, looks like there's the graphic.
Oh, there's you guys.
Oh, yeah, so there it is, right? This guy in the bottom here he's like 2 or 3 strikes away from like reaching the gold, and then this other guy's he's even closer. He's just 1 more strike away, and he walks away because he's discouraged. Just don't get discouraged. That's like 99% of this game. Mayor?
So what stuck out to me is when Sabrina said she thought that sharing her story, she wasn't ready because she felt like she wasn't enough. And I think this is something that a lot of moms can really resonate with, especially, is because we think that we're not enough, but like who's measuring that, right? Like we can be really hard on ourselves. So something I like to do is think of myself through the eyes of my kids, and like they know that you're enough. Like those girls that are watching her work out, and that little girl that she's the mom to already thinks that she's enough. So if you think about that as your measurable for success, and like anything else is just icing on top of it, I think that's a better mindset to have, because what she's doing is amazing, and you know her daughter's proud of her. So that should be the measurable, and she shouldn't be so hard on herself.
Bryce, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Sabrina, just thank you for sharing your story. So many people, I've had people around me who have been through some things that they feel like are unique to them, and they have the same thought process. They're, hey, who's going to relate to this? Is this something worth sharing? And then when they do, they're always surprised by the response that people have, whether it's somebody going through the direct experience that they are, or also just saying, hey, I can see myself in you, right? I'm going through something similar, or I'm going through adversity, and I'm also seeing that you came out the other side, right? So I think that we sometimes think we have these very unique experiences, and with 7 billion people in the entire world, the chances are that someone can see themselves in you is very high, right? And people respond to that. And in today's world, just transparency and vulnerability it's so valuable, because that's what truly helps people, right? Is seeing real examples of someone who just did the work, kept trying, like Devin said, just tried strategy A, B, C, kept showing up, picked the heavy weights and deadlifts. I saw that in the video, and is in the place that you want to be right now. So just thank you for sharing, and I'm sure you've already received an outpouring of the people around you just saying how much that's helped them as well.
Morgan?
Yeah, I mean, I echo all of your guys' comments. Sabrina, thank you so much for your vulnerability. And, you know, obviously what stood out to me is she tried everything, right? The pills, the appetite suppressant stuff, and just, but very fearful to just walk into a gym, right? Because it is intimidating, and you feel like you're not, you know, worthy to be in that space. And I just loved what she said, like the hardest steps are the ones into the gym. But here she is now, 18 months later, signing another 18-month contract, already committing to another 18 months after that. And it is a journey, right? Think of 18 months, and where do you want to be from now? And put yourself in Sabrina's shoes and imagine if you did those hard steps into, you know, the gym. And we love that she's landed at Burn Boot Camp, because it is about the community that you surround yourself with. And you can tell there that she's got that at Holman, Wisconsin. And we've got that all across the U.S., which is so special. And I love stories like this. Really well done, and thank you for sharing. I know you said it, you were very hesitant, and your trainer's been encouraging you to do it. Like Bryce said, you are going to inspire a lot of people with that story. So thank you.
I love the language that I signed the contract, and I'm going to keep signing it.
Yeah.
I love
roll
hearing
'em up.
that. That was
I
awesome.
know.
Keep rolling them out. Okay. Thank you, Sabrina. If you'd like to submit your story and you're a Burn Bootcamp member, please do so at podcast@burnbootcamp.com. Producer Chelsea is there, again, to make sure that you have everything you need to get your video, your story out here so that the world can see it. All right. We're moving on to a story that we've been tracking. And we're going to come back to some member questions as well. But let's track this story first, because I think this is a good place to shift to. We talked a little bit about Vani Hari, the food babe, who kind of stomped into our hometown, Battle Creek, Michigan, and demanded that the Kellogg executives have a meeting with a bias toward action on removing food dyes, specifically from foods like Fruit Loops. And we covered in the last maybe like 4 or 5 episodes ago, we had covered just food dyes in general, and how the same food dyes that color our T-shirts also color Fruit Loops. Loosely put, that's not exactly correlated and true, but there is some derivations of the food dye that they use for food rather than in clothing, but same chemical compounds, and we discussed that. So we were going to follow that. We're going to pull on that thread a little bit. There was a New York Post article, Morgan, that has a pretty, I would say, clickbaity headline. The New York Post, as Morgan will so passionately tell you, is definitely an outlet that she's not going to be willing to read a headline and then just automatically believe everything that it says. For example, the New York Post had had some headlines in the past that have spiked some controversy, misleading headlines over the years. I don't know if you guys remember in 2004. This was probably, how old were we in 2004? If we're 37 now. It's like 16. I don't think we could vote yet.
No, we were 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kerry's dishonorable discharge. I don't know if you guys remember that, which was a big deal back in the day. The headline implied that the presidential candidate John Kerry had received a dishonorable discharge from the military, which was untrue. So there's, that I just have 3 examples here. Jeff Bezos was allegedly had like some explicit images held against him by the owner of the National Enquirer, David Pecker, which turned out to be completely false and untrue. A story that the New York Post ran, as well as there was some fears. This is right up our alley. Fears of the first Ebola case in New York City in 2014. That suggested that Ebola had reached New York, which stirred significant public fear. And this was under investigation, and it was not confirmed at the time, but the headline was later considered an overreaction and contributed to public panic. So we're saying all that just to say, like, take the New York Post with a grain of salt like we do, but we did think this one was interesting. And not that it's wrong or that it's right, but it's a topic that we wanted to bring to you to continue to explore here on the podcast because it does directly affect you and your family and your health and your happiness and your well-being. So the headline is Chemicals That May Cause Cancer. Infertility Widespread in Packaged Products Like Cheerios by Lisa Fickenshire, published January 4th, 2024. So we got the article here on the screen. I'm going to pass it around for thoughts here, but just to kind of kick this off, the potentially dangerous levels of plastic chemicals have become quote unquote widespread in popular grocery products, including Cheerios, Coca-Cola, and Gerber cereals. According to a report, and this is the very first sentence of the article, and if you click on report, then it takes you to Consumer Reports. Go ahead and click on report there, Jordan, if you can. It'll take you to an article headline, The Plastic Chemicals Hiding in Your Food. CR tested popular fast foods and supermarket staples for biphenyls and phthalates. Is that how you say that? Mm-hmm. I think that's how you say that, phthalates, which can be harmful to your health. Okay, notice all this language. We can go back to the Post article, but follow this rabbit hole if you are interested in this topic, which can be harmful to your health. Everything that I can read from a peer-revised, independent perspective, every scholarly article that I can find, focuses on highly processed fast foods. That's what it focuses on, and it shows high level of what they have commercialized as plasticizers or phthalates. I think that's how
I
you
appreciate them just calling it what it is, plasticizers.
Plasticizers.
Right? Plastics. That's just a little easier to remember.
All these scientific words that they seep in mainly through packaging materials and can cause cancer, infertility, birth defects, obesity, and other significant health problems. I think there is some truth to this, but if for sure, but if the New York Post has anything to do with it, I think it's my opinion is that it's probably largely, like most headlines like this, largely overstated and true within a slice of everything. But this does tend to seem that, like, if your food has come into contact with plastic at all, then you're at risk. I'm skeptical of that, but I'm also skeptical of the fact that there isn't a mass amount of studies that are done that aren't on the New York Post as a headline. There's not a massive amount of studies done that can show us either way. So what we have to then say is we should really just focus on eating whole foods, staying away from, fast foods based on what we see here in the main media today. So it's an interesting topic. I want to poll on it. There's definitely no definitive evidence either way. This right now is largely an intuitive thing, I think, for a lot of people, because you can pull facts from both sides. And I just want to put it on the table. So we'll start with Morgan. We'll go this way. Morgan, what are your thoughts here on this whole topic of conversation? I know it's a big one to swallow, but
yeah,
it's
I mean, I obviously have a lot of thoughts on just food in general and how companies can take responsibility. I think articles like this are clickbaity. I think, there are definitely some truths to what this article says. Cancer is on the rise. Infertility is on the rise. Obesity is on the rise. So we do have to look at ourselves and say, what is this caused by? And we know that nutrition is a big part of it, right? So those are all facts, regardless of how you fact check it or spin it. Like that's,
sure.
that's happening, right?
For sure. Definitely in like
Absolutely.
it says in like highly processed foods, like
Yeah.
definitely there is a high correlation to all of those things you mentioned.
Yeah.
Scientifically proven in things any one of us can find online. It does say that.
Yeah.
I
So
think the stretch is how far does it go to the other way to where I won't drink, let's just say, how far does it go? Like to where I won't put water out of a clean tap into a plastic cup momentarily.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the plastic stuff is interesting. And I think, again, like it's all about the way you're consuming it. So if it's found in Cheerios, then yeah, you have to question, well, why is there more plastics in Cheerios? Like drinking out of a plastic water bottle is one way to consume water, but why do we have to make sure, or why are we not making sure that other things that we're consuming has all these ingredients and chemicals in it? But again, going back to the whole conversation here is, whose responsibility is it, right? So it's this article talked about like leaning on the federal government, right, the feds, to make a change, to create, policies that are going to protect consumers from how these big corporations are producing food in the United States. And that's to me where this conversation has to go. And I think articles like this are scary to consumers because you do see the word cancer and you do see, infertility. And I think it can be frustrating to be on the other side of this as a consumer and think, well, what in the heck am I supposed to eat? And how am I supposed to get it? And when I think about Cheerios and Gerber cereals, I think about those are WIC qualification food, right? I worked in a grocery store. So I think of a mother who doesn't have the means potentially to go buy organic everything or, something not like a Cheerios. They're just doing what the government's helping them do to feed their children. And to learn that it's got cancer causing, agents in it, or it can cause infertility. Like it's frustrating as a mom to continue to let us go down this path as a country. And again, like if we could just remove it, we can still offer Cheerios, but not with all the junk in it, And so that's kind of where my frustration comes from. And I mean, we could throw articles up every day, but until we start to kind of push from the top down how we should be producing food, I don't think we're going to get very far, because look at the economy that we're in right now. Like people can barely afford groceries, let alone, the top of the line organic, food. And I feel for the person. And listen, I'm very grateful that I do have the budget to pick and choose what my children eat. But I know that's not the case across the board for, families and their children. And that's probably where I get fired up when I see stuff like this. Cause I'm like, okay, I love that knowledge is power and they're giving us knowledge. They're kind of doing it through a scary way of like these buzzwords of, cancer and things like that. But then it's the application. Now, what am I supposed to do with that? Because nobody wants to feed their kids food that could cause infertility in them or cancer in them or do that for themselves. But how is the government supporting us? And not even the government, but just these companies that are taking the lead to say, we're going to make food that doesn't have it in here. Those are the small potatoes right now that are doing that, and it's just not widespread enough. Or they end up getting bought out by a Kellogg's, and then what do you know? They start leaking in these ingredients again.
Exactly.
And that's like the most frustrating thing, I think, for me that I am trying to express. Hopefully it's landing.
This before you go, Bryce, this New York Post article is based on a Consumer Reports article like we showed, which is, by the way, a nonprofit group, whatever that means to you all. And they had tested 85 food items sold at the supermarket by fast food chains, finding plastic chemicals in 84 of them. Phthalates is the correct pronunciation of it, or plasticizers as they've been called, like we mentioned. And by the way, this is what makes plastic flexible. Right, so it's any containers that you see something stored in it for like a long period of time,
Like the bag that the Cheerios
bag
are
of
in
the
inside the
cereal,
box.
right.
Yep. Yogurt canisters that it's stored for a long
Yogurt.
period of time. It can be on the shelf for however long months. So I think as we zero in where the issues really are, where people are really calling for the feds to ban the use of phthalates, is in those kind of bigger market products. In the 85 food items, 84 of them were found to have plasticizers in them. And, these are from companies that are like Wendy's, Burger King, General Mills, Jerry's Vanilla Ice Cream, Yoplait. The common grocery store names are the real, I think, center of attention when it comes to phthalates and how it is affecting our health.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a couple of thoughts that I have on this is, one, it's funny that the headline is Cheerios, because that was a staple in the Morrow household growing up. I'm going to tell you guys a little horror story. Imagine being a 6-year-old and all your friends are eating Frosted Cheerios, Frosted Flakes, Lucky Charms. Not in the Morrow household. My parents were, hey, we're not having sugar cereal. When we used to go on vacation, that was actually a treat. That was something that we looked forward to. And I don't think I've ever said this, but thank you, Mom and Dad. I didn't like it at the time, but you were looking out for me. But it's pretty cool that the conversation is just shifting to get a lot more in depth, right? I mean, back then, I think they just intuitively knew, hey, look at the amount of sugar that's in this. This probably isn't good for my kids, for them to eat every single day when they wake up. But now we're talking about what's it stored in, what chemicals are in it. And I think it's great that the conversation is elevating. There's a lot of work still left to be done, like Morgan said, of now where are we going to go with this? But it's certainly a start. And the other thing I just wanted to touch on was just when there's discussions around chemicals leading to cancer. The interesting thing is, and even infertility, birth defects, things like that, some of the signs of obesity you can start to see in real time. Like, hey, I'm not feeling my best, and you can start to see that that's coming. It's interesting when it comes to some of these other impacts that the chemicals can have. A lot of us probably think, hey, this isn't going to happen to me, right? Like, I'm pretty healthy, I make good choices, right? Especially when it comes to, packaging and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden, one day, it does happen to people. And I think that's what I was thinking about when I was reading this article was, man, I got to really take stock of the level that my choices goes into, because right now it's, what's the nutrition? Like, is this good for me? Is it, how is this going to make me feel in the moment? Is this, kind of the sugar conversation, less sugar, more sugar, right? But when we're getting into chemicals, packaging, things like that, there's just a whole nother level of decisions that we can make that you don't always know the next day. Did I make the right call? But it's living for the, what if this could affect me 20 years down the road in a negative way that I actually don't know about right now. And so just another level of diligence that we need to do to make sure we're looking out for ourselves long term. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on, Devin, it's interesting you bring up Jeff Bezos, because recently he's been in the news. I believe he owns the Washington Post. And this is not going to be a political thing, but I know that he did get called out because he told his Washington Post, he said, look, there's two things that have to be true in the media. What we report on needs to be true, and then the public needs to believe that it's true, right? And he said, right now, we're not doing a good job of that. And so thankfully on this podcast, we talk a lot about when you see articles like that, how do you dive deeper? And even Devin just saying, hey, click on this report that's cited in here. There's not a lot of citations at the bottom, but it does lead to a more credible report of somebody who... Consumer Reports is just out there to assess products and just say, hey, which car is reliable? What's in your foods? Those types of things. I'm sure there's some business, motives at play, but it's certainly not at the level that the legacy media has been. So,
yes, Mayor.
Hey, I'm with Morgan on this one. I take personal offense to the fear mongering that happens in our country for moms. I mean, dads too, but parents in general of, that they don't have their kids' best interest at heart. We're all doing the best we can. And this article specifically, it's sensationalism, right? Like, they took a headline, they took a household brand like Cheerios. Well, there's 34 others on the list, including Stonyfield organic yogurt, which is sold at Whole Foods and is more expensive. That has the plasticizers in it as well. But they scare you into thinking, like, this isn't the best choice. This causes X, Y, and Z. And if you really dig into that article, it doesn't. It's not that Cheerios cause cancer. That's not the truth, right? And I would just encourage anyone listening or any parent, like, the 3 minutes it took to read this BS article, in my opinion, like, go to a credible organization like EWG, that's Environmental Working Group. I swear by that resource. It's a nonprofit organization. They have a food scale, and you can just look up Cheerios. They rate a 1.5. That's actually a really good score. and use that as your source of truth. That takes less than 30 seconds to look up, and they're affordable. And like Morgan said, you can use your WIC card and be able to afford that. It doesn't always have to be that organic is better. I think that's some of like the misconstrued information that we get too, is just because something is expensive or because it's at a better quote unquote grocery store, it's a better choice for my children, and I'm a less than parent if I can't afford that choice. And I don't subscribe to that. So I don't love these kind of articles. Yeah.
It's good to keep having these conversations, because I really do think about it as we've gotten smarter as a country in a world of on like packaging and shelf life and things like that. What's happened to our health, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of business motives, understandably, right? People are out there running a business, and I know I've heard one of my favorite people to follow, Jocko Willink, he's talked about his energy drink, and he just said, look, it's really hard to put a healthy energy drink in a refrigerator, right? Because for it to be able to sit in a refrigerator and last without all of the things in it that allow the other options to last that are less healthy, it's really challenging to make the cost and the economics work. And I think the more that we have these conversations and the more that there becomes a market for truly healthy things, right, then the business incentives from all these companies are going to start to align with health. And right now, if nobody's been calling people out on this, longer shelf life, we're getting smarter on how to do that, but is it aligned with what's actually good for us? And it hasn't been, right? But when there starts to be some more accountability, hopefully there's a future where it is aligned.
Yep, I agree.
Susie wrote in to us, you guys, from Carmel, Indiana. Okay, this is our first member question of the day. I've heard y'all say this before, but hunger can sometimes be mistaken for thirst. And should you drink a glass of water to assess if you are truly hungry? Is that true, or is that a myth? Is it a myth to think that I am actually hungry when I'm in fact thirsty?
I have not fact checked this, but I would say it's true, only because of personal experience. But I have not I wanted to take this question just as is. So Devin, if you want to fact check.
Well, I'll let you guys go first because I've got a lot to say on this. I actually wrote a little like four pages on this exact topic in Stop Starting Over that I released in 18? 18.
Okay.
It was 18, I believe.
It's all a blur for
I
me.
think.
Sorry. We were having
But
babies.
I talked a little bit about this, so I'll reserve my my take on it for
All right.
last.
Bryce,
why don't
Well,
you go?
I think it's true because I've read your book, and a lot of people that that I believe have told me that that's the case. I don't know why. I do know that if I'm staying hydrated and maybe sometimes a little too quickly, and my my stomach gets a little full, I don't feel like there's a lot of room for food. So I personally think it's true, and I'm curious to see what Devin, the fitness guy, says.
I'm going true-ish because I think that it could be true where maybe you're dehydrated and you need to drink more water, or maybe you are a little thirsty or hungry and drinking might help. But I don't believe in like staving off hunger and like trying to replace that with a drink.
I agree. It's not
true-ish.
like there's times where sometimes I'll drink 2 glasses of water, but guess what? I'm still hungry.
I'm still hungry,
So
right.
that means, you're actually hungry. But I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
There's a caveat there.
Yeah, well, our brain has multiple ways to trick us into being hungry, or at least the perception of hunger. One is that you're actually hungry, like you actually you need to eat food. But if you know that there's a handful of other things, then you have the optionality to just look at, to kind of scan the state of being that you're in and say, what am I hungry? Like, what is the underlying motivation here? Right? Am I actually hungry? Do I need food? How long has it been since I've eaten? Some people can use this type of transformative language where they just ate 2 hours ago, and then they'll say, I'm so hungry I could eat a cow. Well, it might sound like hyperbole, but if the more you talk yourself into like the ability to eat a cow, which essentially means that I could eat a whole another meal right now. I'm starving. Well, you're really not starving, and you really aren't going to eat a cow. And there's this type of language transformation that we can get ourselves into that we just start to trick ourselves into actually being hungry. Dehydration is another one. Food cues from your environment is another one. So if I'm going down, the road to my house, and there's, let's just say, a Burger King right there, and I cannot not turn right into that Burger King and get like a big
BK,
Whopper.
BK is the one you picked?
No, I mean, it's like, it would probably be Taco Bell or Jimmy John's for me if I had a vice.
Ooh,
but it's just that routine, right? Or if you go to Whole Foods and you walk by the bakery every time, and when you walk by the bakery, you smell the donuts and you're like, oh yeah, that's just exactly what I need right now. Well,
or
you have
food
these
commercials.
food commercials can do it. Yeah, anything that basically excites your senses, right? Your touch, your sight, your taste, your sound, your smell. So you have those cues from your environment. You have habits where, let's say, this is one that I had post baseball, right? I couldn't stop chewing tobacco for a few years post baseball because it was part of the culture then. And then every time I would like even think about baseball, it would have that neurological connection to say, hey, you need this. And eventually I quit cold turkey. But you know, there is that for food as well. And I've never experienced that with food. I've only experienced that with that other substance there, that nasty tobacco. I can't even think about it today because it makes me like disgusted. Well, you know, it's it was part of ritual, right? And so many people get in rituals and they can never get out of the ritual. And it's very important to, you know, examine your past and look back at your memory and say, well, why do I think that every Sunday I need to have a whole pie that I need to bake with my family and, you know, have this whole spread and it's 6,000 calories. I need to do that every Sunday. Well, this is just a ritual that I've had maybe my whole life with my family. Well, do I want to continue that ritual, or am I just doing it because it's something that was passed on to me from somebody else? So, you know, you can have, to me, the transformative language patterns, how we are actually languaging hunger to ourselves is very important. That's why I want us to zero in on how are you actually speaking to yourself? Like the difference between yes, no, and I don't know is a very big difference. Are you hungry? Yes, no, I don't know. Right? Yes, no, I don't know is a big difference. I don't know. Okay, you have all these cues, right? So let's eliminate that and let's make it a yes or no. So am I hungry? I don't know. Well, am I actually hungry? Am I thirsty? Have I tried thirst? If I am hungry but I just ate, what if I try to drink water, then eat some low-calorie fruit to make myself get the feeling that I'm eating, but I'm not taking on 500 calories? There's so many ways to do this. You just have to slow down in the moment. That's the common denominator. You have to slow down in the moment and say, do I really want to execute this behavior that I'm thinking about executing right now? Yes, no. Okay, if yes, what are some things that I can put in front of it? Maybe turn left instead of going down that road with Burger King. Maybe drink water, eat a bowl of grapes before I dive into the whole bag of Cheetos and a diet soda. What can I do to put to stave off these habits that are making me unhealthy? And this is where the self-awareness work and the emotional intelligence all meets the physical part of it. How am I feeling really? How do I want to feel? And will this behavior that I'm thinking about executing actually make me feel the desired way? So not an answer there, but just a whole realm of things to explore for you guys. Do you guys have any of these? This happens at lightning speed, right? This is why we need to slow the game down. These decisions like, I'm hungry, I'm going there, boom, I'm full, I'm exhausted, I feel like crap, I never want to do that again. And for people that goes so fast, and then they feel like they're out of control because they never slowed down to be able to take the time to make those decisions. Do you guys feel that way in any of your experiences based on these things we've laid out? Mare?
Yeah, I do. I will get into this later when I speak through celiac disease, but I have to be really prepared and kind of like methodical about how I'm going to eat and what I'm going to consume. So I'm not like an on the fly. I'm like, okay, these are the times that I usually eat. Not a big snacker, but like my usual camp time is 9:15. So I know I'm going to eat food with my coffee. I'm going to get at least 50 grams of protein in pre-camp. Post-camp, I have that shake. I know what I'm getting in. I know when I'm eating lunch. Like I know if I'm off in my protein goals, that's when I'm hungry. So for me, as long as I'm planning out what I'm going to eat, I'm not going to be this like instant, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to drop dead if I don't eat something right now. I have to, because when we're that hungry, we're going to make a bad food choice. Like that's when we make poor food decisions, at least for me. So if I'm planned out, not every day's perfect, right? But at least having like better options that I could grab and like reheat easily, that's going to help me. And if I'm off in those protein goals, then I'm definitely going to be hungry.
Yeah, sounds like you're a lot more intentional than I am. That must be nice. Good for you. But that's what I was thinking.
I'm a type A.
DK, when you're going through all that stuff, is another. I don't know if I'd call it a cue, but just a part of the equation is what's your plan? What are you being intentional about, right? Because if it's 4 p.m. and you're still hungry, maybe one of the things that's saying, making you think, yes, I actually am hungry is, I'm not at my calorie goal or my protein goal for the day, right? So if I do go back and get something, that's okay, right? Or, I think a lot of times when this comes up is I'm trying to maybe hit a calorie goal or a protein, I'm going over, right?
Yep.
And so I'm trying to keep from going over. So I think the intentionality and what's your plan and where are you within that plan is also a big thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. If I'm not planning, then I will get those cravings. I mean, during the work week and stuff, when I'm at work, I don't really have the opportunity to just go out and grab stuff. But this is where Burn Meals has come in like clutch for me because I definitely have been there when it's like you're starving and you're just going to order whatever. You're going to DoorDash something, and especially DoorDash, like you're looking at the images and everything looks good. And it's just talking to your, your weakness.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I'm all about being prepared.
Add that to the cues in the next book, DK, DoorDash and the pictures.
Yeah, it's true. It's all
trigger.
like they know too. Like that, right? Like
Well,
all this is marketing.
Yes.
Everyone at home and all of us here have experienced when you say, I'm hungry, you've said out loud to somebody or to yourself, I'm really hungry. And then you get a phone call from somebody that you're really interested in talking to. A half an hour goes by, an hour goes by, you're in depth, you're in the conversation, your mind's in a different world now. You're not focused on hunger. What you're focused on, you will find. And if you get off that phone, and how many of us have just forgot about being hungry altogether besides Bryce? I mean, everybody has done that besides Bryce. He's hungry still right now.
Yeah.
No, but like seriously though, I joke, but
That's a good point.
hasn't that happened before where you're just literally bored? Or not even bored. You just don't have your focus is misplaced, and so your mind wants to be focused on something. Ooh, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
That'll make me feel productive. If I go make food and eat, I'll be productive. A lot of times that's my mishap is I'm just bored. I'm a person that wants to be doing something all the time.
Yep.
So yeah, watch for that kind of boredom trap. You'll fall in that, and all of a sudden you'll be 5% higher in body fat than you want to be, and you'll be like, what the hell just happened?
It's always funny when you guys been on a family road trip and the kids are just hungry instantly, right?
Always,
And it
yeah.
needs to happen, and
Is
it
there
needs to
any other
happen in
road
the
trips
next
than
2
that one?
minutes,
Yeah.
right? And I'm thinking like,
Yes.
I can just live with my hunger for 30 minutes
Yeah.
until we find, what makes sense. But I always think about that. I'm like, they are just hungry, and they are hungry right now, and it's the
Yes.
most urgent thing on our minds. That's
That
what
was
it made
me
me think of.
That was me a couple Sundays ago, getting ready to go to brunch. You know what you want, like what you're gonna order, and then people take way too long to get ready, and I'm like, and then someone's trying to plan pickleball, and I'm like, I just need food. That's me. I do reach a point.
I
don't
get
Devin?
hangry for sure.
I reach a point, and then
Yeah.
he's like, okay, I need to feed you.
We need to
Yes.
feed you. We need to feed the beast. We're going to a new storyline here, a Neuroscientist 5 tips to keep the mind sharp. This, you guys, is, listen, I love this. I love this lady. Wendy Suzuki, she's a PhD. She wrote a book, Happy Brain, Happy Life. I think she's written a couple other things as well. And I've heard a couple podcasts of hers. She's kind of for having such an amazing book, I'm surprised how she's so low key. I would love to get her on the podcast to be just like a neuroscience / fitness expert, because one of the things that she writes about most in this book is how demanding exercise or training harder than you would train intrinsically yourself, having somebody else work you out, or what you'd like say like demanding training actually can increase the amount of neurons that we have in some of the brain structures. And she really documents that in her book, specifically in the hippocampus, which is responsible for long-term, short-term memory, just to say a few words on what it's responsible for. But yeah, I'd love to have her on. If anybody knows Dr. Suzuki out there, we've been trying to ping her. She's an elusive character.
She's meditating, man.
Yeah, she's meditating.
Don't mess
So
with her, Zen.
just to
She's
give her a little
spending time
bio,
with her
she's a
friends.
neuroscientist, the dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at New York University, and the author of 2 books about anxiety and cognitive health. She's also an expert on lifestyle choices, and that have the biggest benefit for our brains, by the way, which is extremely intriguing to me. So this article covers 5 things that she does every day. She writes about this too. So this is really an excerpt or cliff notes from some of the books that she's written. But prioritizing sleep's number 1, meditation number 2, regular exercise number 3, which I love about her. a brain health focused diet. We'll just uncover what that means, and she maintains her friendships. So let's go through each one of these. We'll kind of go round robin here, and we'll talk about each one briefly. Prioritizing sleep is definitely something, as I've grown up, had kids, more responsibility, the body gets older. The mind needs to be more sharp, especially as Burn Boot Camp and the business gets bigger. You know, I used to be able to run on 5 hours, no problem. For sure, did that since I was maybe 24 to 30, 31, maybe right around when kids started really growing up and maturing, in the business as well, and just needed more sleep. The body would feel better when I would sleep 6-7 hours rather than 4 to 5. And I used to be one of those late night, early morning people and just get it done. And I still can do that. Like, I'm not afraid to flex on that every now and then when I need to, when the business needs me or the family or whatever, when duty calls. But definitely not a routine for me personally anymore. And I do like waking up early. I'll have to admit, my wake up early game has been thrown off lately. You know, I hate still sleeping when my kids get up. That's just a personal thing that starts my day off the wrong way. Morgan, I commit to being better in that regard, because I love to play pickleball at night on Wednesdays, and I do not want to have that taken from me by sleeping in too long in the morning and not reciprocating in the parental responsibilities of our relationship.
All right, you heard it first.
Yeah, no, you hear that? She was wondering where I was going with that until I said, I'll help more in the morning.
Yes.
No, she's going to hold me
Patrick,
to it.
are you listening?
Prioritizing sleep, getting more sleep. She says, quote, sleep is so important for my long-term cognitive health. I'm more energized and can show up, or I can shove more things into my daily schedule because I sleep. So you're more productive. You guys feel that same way?
100%.
Yeah, I definitely do.
Yes.
It's one of those things for a long time. I think getting up early was, and it still is. I mean, there's a lot that says getting up early and getting things accomplished, the most important things accomplished before anyone else up, gives you an edge. I think there's something to waking up with the sun. Devin, you probably know the science. Is it circadian rhythm type thing? But that means you got to go to bed early too. And we have our resident early to bed person, Matt Morris. He knows that really well. I swear he's getting tucked in around 7 p.m. every night and get up early. That's the most challenging thing for me. Is I love getting up early, but if we're listening to this and we've got to get our sleep in, you've got to go to bed early, and that's what's tough for me too.
That's what's the hardest for most people, I think. Yeah. All right, what's number 2?
Meditation. This is you're either one of two camps in meditation. You think it's this thing that is reserved for like yogis and gurus and ohms and, you know, seated yoga Buddha positions, your chest and head to the sky, or you've done it and you realize it's just an opportunity for you to drown out the noise, to stay focused, to stay present, and to not be controlled by the environment around you. And when we have the latter, that to me, that is what meditation really is. And you can grow in your meditation. She says she was a yo-yo meditator forever. And that's what most people end up being who do meditate. What is your
What's
relationship?
my take on this?
Well, your relationship with it personally.
Yeah, my relationship with this is I've definitely done it before. I worked for Lululemon for a long time, so did like mindfulness retreats. Yoga and meditation were a big part of my life. I would say now with kids, I don't have as much time that's one-on-one with myself. So I have a progressive mindset on meditation. Mine is definitely waking up before my kids and my husband. But my meditation is like, I put on, right now it's Jazz for Autumn on Spotify. It's a great playlist. And I put on my little like Yule log. We don't have a real fireplace, so I put that on. And I like come down, I have my coffee. I like make my drinks for the day because I need like 3 of those at all times, obviously. And I have something to eat. And I just like kind of center before the first kid wakes up, before I hear that first cry. And for me, I found that works well. Like that's my meditative state, whether I'm like looking at my schedule for the day, what do I have on the docket, or what do I want to accomplish today, like in my personal life, or do I want to get dressed for the workout, or do I want to surprise my kids and take them all to school? Like, what do I want to do? That's my meditation, I would say. Yeah.
Bryce?
Yeah. Well, we actually got a sauna, I would say, I don't know, 6-7 months ago. And it's one of those things where I started thinking I was already meditating, but I also started to look at, if I'm going to sit in here for 30 minutes, how can I be efficient with my time? And so that's really one of the things that has become more consistent for me, because I love going in the sauna. And then when I'm in there, I don't want to just sit in there, right? I want to be productive. I want to do something that's going to help me. And so I know there's all different types of meditating, and I was taught one type. Thankfully, I have a sister who went and was, I think, certified in yoga. I'm not really sure what all the certifications
She's an
are.
RIT.
But she went to went to Bali, and so that's a big part of it. And so she came back and she taught me one of the most simple forms, and it's really to just focus on the breath. And when you're breathing in and breathing out, you're kind of picturing, I think she taught me almost this, what they taught her, like a lotus flower. When you breathe in, it kind of opens up.
Expands,
when you breathe out, it kind of it comes back in. And so I've adapted that to kind of my own environment. I like to think about kind of waves coming in, and then when I breathe out, the waves go back out, and just kind of sitting on a beach. And really what it does for me, just focusing on my breath, right? So there's all the things that are running in my head, and sometimes when I take those first couple breaths and you're focusing just on that and not everything else in your head, there's actually this really good feeling that comes over me. I can't explain it, but it's just almost this flushing of everything else that was in your head prior to that. And it's just kind of an interesting thing. It gives me a little instant gratification of, oh, okay, I think I needed this. This feels nice, and it really allows you to just have a little bit more control over your thoughts. And I certainly feel a lot better when I'm doing this consistently, and I notice when I'm not.
I am not a meditator. I think that I would desire to be, but my brain is very noisy. I've more recently taken up yoga with Devin, and it's in like a private session. So it's at our house, and the time is carved out, and I'm not thinking about much. But even in those moments, it's very hard for me to get myself to a meditative state, which I know Devin will probably talk about. So for me, when I think about how do I reduce anxiety in my life or any type of stress, because that's really the outcome of meditation, this for me is more built in my faith and how I pray. And if I've got something on my mind that's consuming me, then, I release it in other ways that are just like quick conversations with God. Because if I try to meditate, which Devin has tried with me a couple of times in our sauna, I just have a very noisy, like I'm thinking of so many to-do lists. I've got this mental load that I would love to get rid of, but it's just not the reality. So I do it in other ways.
Yeah, I think getting rid of it would be taking away your superpower. I think it's just controlling at what times you use the sword.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you have this real superpower, and what meditation helps you do is compartmentalize what is really important versus what isn't really important. And it's the same notion as prayer in a sense. I think the only difference I can see is you're asking for the questions to ask when you're meditating versus you're asking questions when you're praying. Generally speaking, there's obviously different forms of meditation, different forms of prayer, but that's usually the difference, although they're 99% the same thing. It's like I show up to a meditation and I want to think about nothing versus I show up to a prayer and I want to, almost like a mantra, kind of fixate on maybe this one area of life and really ask and seek some answers and some guidance. But either way, you're sitting down to be with yourself, to be with a higher power, and to disassociate yourself from the reality, because you transcend reality. And to me, that's what meditation helps you do. That's why TM, transcendental meditation, is like the most popular version. And that's where you're going to be focused on breathing. Some people will put a mantra in there as well. Like for a long time when I was like younger and just probably way more insecure, mine was, I am unstoppable.
My hair looks great.
My hair looks great and I am unstoppable. And, because in reflecting on that, it's like, what? You needed to tell yourself that because you knew that you needed to build bigger resilience or tougher skin or thicker skin, or you just were insecure and you didn't have that mentality. And so, one way to get it is to focus on it, right? And to actually start to believe it. But then I started getting into, and that was kind of yo-yo, like Dr. Wendy. And then I went into a more deeper form called a Kundalini meditation, which is, we all know that we have chakras, right? And so there's these focal points, really from like your perineum all the way up to the point of your head, up your spinal column. And you just are sucking pressure up from like the pits of your belly all the way through the top of your head while you're breathing. So if you can imagine like your spinal fluid being like a straw, and like the top of the straw is the pineal gland in your head, and you're pulling the energy up through that. We learned that at a Tony Robbins conference one time, and we were doing that en masse with like, I don't know, it was like 12,000 people at this business conference, and it was really, really powerful. And so then I started doing that more and more and more and more and more, and then all of a sudden, just the act of focusing on that visualization of pulling that energy up to your brain, you can't really focus on anything else. It was in itself transcendent of time. And so sometimes I'll go in and I'll close my eyes for 20 minutes and it seems like it's 2 because it just goes so fast and I can get lost pretty quickly now. And it's really helped me, to be honest with you. So if you're somebody that, like I'd probably be a manic otherwise, I'd probably drive my wife crazy otherwise, or be really frustrated. Well, I'd need other outlets. Like I know that about myself. I'm like this emotional wound up thing, and like I need an outlet for it to be able to. It's either progress, success, ambition, drive forward, energy forward. Only one way. We're gonna go run through all the walls, kill everything we see. The other side of it is like, I don't know if you can do that. Are you the type of person that can do that? You got that little voice in the back of your head. You got that little inner critic. We all have it, and that's my way to boom smash that inner critic.
Right.
So, I highly recommend to just at the very least take 5 minutes. Just take 5 minutes and focus on a 3 count in with your breath. 3, 2, 1. Box breathing. Hold it. 3, 2, 1. Out. 3, 2, 1, and hold at the bottom. 3, 2, 1. Do that for 5 minutes. If you just do that, you're going to feel at least a little bit of what I'm talking about, and maybe you'll be convinced to do it again. What do you think, Morg?
All right, we got to move on. Regular exercise
Okay.
is next on what you can do. I think that was number 3.
Yes.
Yep.
Right, yep.
We all know what we do
Yes,
for that.
we sure do.
So probably don't need to talk too much. But yeah, regular exercise. 10 minutes a day, I think, is what the recommendation is here. Sorry.
When you read her book is all about demand, demand, demand. Train hard, do it hard, go all out, go all in. Cardio and strength. She'll talk a lot about lengthening in there too. So this one right here, it says, that's because aerobic exercise has the most evidence for brain benefits, including the growth factors that could help grow your hippocampus, what I talked about earlier.
Yep.
Make your memory better, make your prefrontal cortex better. The prefrontal cortex is what makes us human beings.
I look at the next part.
What's it say?
Add strength
Suzuki
training.
also makes sure to add strength training to her workout routine because of its benefits for bone health as women age.
Yep. Love
30
that.
minutes of cardio strength,
That's a great way to get it all in one. She
7
says.
days a week.
We
That's
love
what
a
we
habit
believe in
stack.
at Burn.
That's right.
Dr. Wendy's going hard 7 days a week. I think we need to slow
We
down
need one
Dr.
rest
Wendy
day,
one day.
okay?
We
Is
gotta
she a
slow
member
down.
yet?
She's got to be a member at
Gotta get
Burn,
that.
and she'll know we need one rest day.
That's right.
All right, what's next?
Okay, and then the
Or
last one is
4.
maintaining her friendships.
No, we can't skip
brain
what I-
health
what I do?
focused diet.
Oh, yeah.
Very
We just
important.
talked a lot about that. She talks a lot about fish. She talks a lot about omega-3 fatty acids
Low in
fish.
sugar,
Low in
not
sugar.
super
I mean,
processed.
Obvious stuff here.
Yep. And then maintaining her friendships. Very important.
Morg, this is a big part of your routine as a busy CEO and somebody who is momming and CEOing. One thing I'm impressed with you is you always, you don't make time. It's just part of who you are. You always make sure that that time for your friendships is carved out, and you make sure that those relationships are nurtured.
Yeah, it's very important to me. It fills my cup up in ways that other things don't, like spending time alone and working out. Like that fills my cups in different ways, but spending time with my friends, whether that's a girls trip or just a night out, is definitely something that means a lot to me. And, at the end of the day, I always prioritize when I need to, staying home and being with my family. But I want, there will be a point where my kids are out of the house and I want those good nurtured relationships. So.
All right. We're moving on to our last member Q&A, and then we're going to do a guest explainer segment with Mare, because Mare has celiac, and she's going to really talk about her experience there. But before we do that, we're going to answer a question that Stacy asked. How can listeners identify credible fitness information versus trends or just misinformation online? Let's give one tip around the horn each. Like, how do you clear through the clutter? We're talking about these articles today. We're not just going to bring up things that are only on one side of the aisle. We're always going to be kind of sitting neutral, and I want everybody to see both sides, because I think that's very important to have a well-rounded intake so that your output is informed. It's an informed output. And so if I reserve some of my own opinions for last, that's because I'm trying to set that neutral table. So Mayor, we'll start with you. When you think about, you talked about the difference between New York Post and maybe some more credible resources that you follow.
Yep.
What are some other ways that you can help Stacy and other podcast listeners today identify the credible information versus the misinformation that so many of us see, or the clickbaity titles, or just misleading stuff?
Yeah, I love this question. I think finding those people that you really trust can help, because you know that they have the education, certification, background that maybe you don't. So taking that pressure off yourself, but finding that person, whether it's your head trainer at Burn, or maybe it's through On Demand and you're navigating through the app and you're going through, the pelvic floor and you're listening to Amanda Fisher talk about how you can retrain your core, and like finding those specialists I think that you really trust. That's what I rely on, because there's so much noise online. Like if you're going to Instagram and you're looking to an influencer who has none of those certifications that I'm talking about, and you're like, but look, she's talking about how to look better, or how to bounce back, or how to do whatever, all that stuff that I don't love. It's like, actually go to those specialists that you trust. So like Amanda Fisher's a great one, but my head trainer in Burn Belmont, I'm like, I'm going to go have a focus meeting with them and talk about how I can like reasonably increase my protein intake if that's a goal of mine, or how I can accomplish these pull-ups that I want. And I'm not just going to listen to that noise that's online. So for me, it's just those trusted people.
Beamer.
Yeah, I would just say, don't ever give your power away as being an expert yourself, because there's certainly there's power in knowing what do I not know and what do others know better. But look, nobody's an expert in you like you. So whenever you're seeing this stuff, if you want to try something and you feel like you've done all your research, you've looked at the sources, look, things are changing. Think about 20 years ago, the things that were studied and were, this is what you do, it's different now, right? Like medical textbooks change over time. I heard some stat the other day about what % of medical textbooks, by the time they come out with a new version, is then irrelevant. And so that really, I think, just know enough to be dangerous, and know that do you feel better? Do you not feel better? Right? And trust yourself in that instance, and just always be a skeptic on both sides, right? I'm not just going to listen to something because somebody said it, but I'm not going to listen to someone say, oh, that's cutting edge. It might work. It just might not be well studied yet, but you're going to be the best person to say, when I do these things, how do I feel?
Morgan.
I'll add just a couple other things here. As you know, we're talking about fitness information and obviously online. First of all, I would ask, is this person trying to sell something? So, if you do read or listen to, a TikTok or a reel, or just something that's being shared from somebody online, I would kind of go troll their page and be like, hey, are they just trying to sell something? Influencers are compensated for talking about products. So again, like, I wouldn't consider influencers to be someone who has credible information 100% of the time, because most likely they're given a fact sheet to go talk about a product that they're then going to share, and you may purchase it and they're going to get compensated for it. Like, nothing wrong with that model. I love that we have that opportunity for people, but I always say, like, what's in it for them to talk about this product or this trend or something. And then secondly, look at the credentials, and then go try to review their article and search why you wouldn't believe what they were saying, and see what comes up, and know both sides of it. I think then you're empowered to be, your own expert at it. So
in a business context, I felt very vulnerable early on when we were growing Burn Bootcamp, and you have all these lawyers and all these financial professionals, advisors, consultants, all the people around you. And it's like, I learned this early on, that in order for us to lead our own lives, we actually have to make our own decisions. In order to do that, you need to be informed 360. In order to do that, you need to talk to both sides of the aisle. People that tell you one thing might be motivated. They might be not motivated. They might be misinformed. They might just have an experience that showed them that was the important thing for you to know and to do. And for you to be able to take a table of opinions, right, and then intake those, and then actually find your own answer, is critical thinking. That's intelligence, right? So that's really what I'm preaching to everybody out there is make intelligent, informed decisions. These people that were around me, they weren't telling me what to do, even though we were all like 26, 27, 28, 29 years old, late 20s, didn't really have a lot of experience. You needed these opinions, right? I was misinformed about how to do this whole thing we call building an enterprise, but I never took anybody's opinion and said, oh, that's exactly right because that person said it and they did this, and just blindly follow them. I've always told Morgan and all of our other executives that, hey, these people, our lawyers, we love them, right? Our CPAs, we love them. Our consultants, we love them, but they work for us, right? They work for us. They're the ones who are hired to give us their experiences. We pay them for their opinions. We pay them for their advice. And then it's our job to take all the advice from all angles, put that in front of you, sort it out, put together the puzzle that is your puzzle and nobody else's. And so that's how I always approach things. That's how I want to approach things here on the podcast too. I don't want to just jump on some trend because it went viral and then start becoming a part of this trend that ultimately becomes, down the road once people had time to really put their own pieces of the puzzle together, to jump to some conclusions and mislead people. So we're going to take that same approach here. And we're going to let Mayor Kaiser today, guys, who, if you're just joining us now, she has celiac disease, and it's an interesting disease because, unless you've had it, it's hard for people to really understand what life with it is like.
Yep, absolutely.
It's like more easy to understand obvious things like life with cancer is like you have. You go through the chemo and then you this and then you come back and you bounce back and you go back. So like this disease it seems to me to be like very elusive. It's like an elusive disease.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just bring clarity and context and light to it. So we know what it is, how we can find early signs of maybe needing to be diagnosed or not. When did you get diagnosed? All those things. So let's bring light to it, shine a flashlight on celiac disease, and let's make sure that when we walk away from here that there's no unanswered questions on the panel, that I think there won't be any unanswered questions at home.
Absolutely. So it's an autoimmune disease. So most people are born with it. It's not something that is like from causation. It can be. So there are new studies. It is a newer disease. That's why it's kind of elusive. But there are studies out there about things like antibiotics or prescriptions that you've taken as a child or environmental factors that can cause autoimmune diseases. So we know that, right? But you can also have a predisposition from your genes to have it. There's people that are like Danish or Swedish descent. They're more likely to have it. It's not in my family at all. So it's an interesting thing. I definitely took antibiotics as a kid. Was my mom like giving me probiotics and replacing my good gut bacteria and doing all those things? Probably not. I don't think she knew, right? But I often wonder, like, why do I have this? And none of my other family members do. And right as of now, none of my 3 children have it. It's something that they usually test for around age 5. So I'll plan to do that. But also something is like you just keep introducing gluten and hopefully they don't have that reaction. At its core, it is an intolerance to gluten. So we've all seen that label of like gluten-free. It was a fad diet for a long time. They thought that like if you didn't eat gluten, you could lose weight. It's really not the case. It doesn't work like that. I was diagnosed back in 2012, so my first year out of college. But as far back as I can remember, to like freshman year of high school, I probably had it. I played 12 different sports at different times. And back then it was like, let's carb load, like let's prepare, like let's have 4 bagels before the swim meet or before the cross country meet. And I remember like getting through the athletic event and like almost like passing away afterwards because I would just be keeled over and have these terrible stomach cramps. And my parents were like, what is going on? This can't be normal. Like, how are you just like pushing yourself too hard? What is it? So went to University of Michigan Children's Hospital, MOTS, and they actually told my parents, they were like, it's because of her athletic activity. We think her organs are rubbing together and it's like she's too intense and she has to like cut back on her physical activity because they couldn't figure out what was going on. It was just not something that was tapped into at the time. This is probably like 2002 at the time. So finally diagnosed after doing elimination diets, a few different ones. Like they thought it was heartburn. They thought it was maybe like IBS or Crohn's or diverticulitis. So I did every elimination diet under the sun, finally did a gluten-free diet for 2 weeks. And then on that 15th day, I had a bowl of pasta that my mom made, and I like immediately got sick. And I was like, oh, this is like the happiest I ever was to like go and throw up in my parents' bathroom, because I was like, oh my God, this is what it is. Like, this is exactly what it is. And I went back to my gastroenterologist. I had the endoscopy, I had a biopsy, and they could tell that I had celiac because your small intestine can't absorb gluten. So you have these things called villi, which are like these curvatured little, like, it literally looks like a squiggle. That's your small intestine. And if you have celiac and you're ingesting gluten, then it's flat. And that can lead to malabsorption. It can lead to osteoporosis because you're not absorbing the nutrients from your food. So they could see that right away in that little tiny camera on your endoscopy, and they could tell. So I got that diagnosis, and then I've been gluten-free ever since. So like 12 years now.
Have you ever ate anything that had it in there and like you've had a
Yes.
Yeah,
I had an for sure. And I know that's something we were going to talk about, but it's like, what are the biggest challenges? And usually it's like the most like fun moments in our life come with the biggest challenges for me, because it's like wedding, celebration, travel, airport, airplane, like any of those things. 'Cause I can't like trust what's there. And because there's this lack of understanding, like Devin said, it's like not everyone's in the loop on it, so they don't really get it. So I just have to be that advocate and like prepare or eat ahead of time or like do whatever I need to do to take care of myself. Because when it does happen, you just end up like sick and there's nothing you can do. Like, it's in your body, and there's no pill I can take, and there's no drug that's just going to like turn it around. It's just a lifelong gluten-free diet at this point.
Does the intolerance look different for everybody? Because I'm just thinking you lived until 2002,
yes,
right? And you didn't know what was going on. That was your
Yeah.
life. And now if you go to a wedding and there's an so my two questions are, does intolerance look different? And then also, when you cut it out and then you eat it again, does the reaction, is it amplified because your body's not used to
Great
eating
questions. It's different for every body, which is also frustrating, because there's no like, a doctor can't just tell me do this and you'll have these results. Like, some people it shows up as psoriasis. Some people are asymptomatic celiac, so it can be damaging their intestine internally, but they have no physical reaction. So they're like, I'm still going to drink beer. I'm still going to eat fast food. I don't feel any different. And their GI doctor could be telling them, but it's ruining your body. And like, now you're at risk for cancers and osteoporosis by doing this. So it shows up differently in everyone, which is interesting to me. I do find that if I reintroduce it, if I like have something that might be like prepared by someone or like have some cross contamination, I'm more sensitive now because I haven't been having it in so long, and I'm so strict about it.
Yeah, it's just such an interesting
It's
thing
an
to think you
immediate-
lived like that.
I know.
And now if you go to a wedding or whatever and you have an it's kind of, it seems like your body's just not used to it anymore.
I'm often
right?
like, I can't believe I made it this far,
Yeah.
because now if I have a little bit of like immediate brain fog, headache, like I feel bloated, I just don't feel good. So it's actually like, I'm actually really thankful I made it through college without the diagnosis, even though it was frustrating. I was like, oh, I just like don't like beer, and like I just like, proteins and salads more than like fried food. Like, I just thought that was like how my body responded. I didn't know it was because I had a disease. Yeah.
This is, I'm always interested in the history of these types of things. So in the 19th century, there's a British physician named Samuel Gee who provided one of the first clinical descriptions of celiac disease in 1888.
Wow.
And the modern understanding of this disease took a major leap during World War II, when the Dutch pediatrician Dr. William Dyke observed that his patients with celiac disease improved when the bread and other wheat products became scarce during the war.
Danish. That's what we said.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. So so this goes back. So gluten eats away. I don't think it actually eats away, from what I can find, of the microvilli, like you said. Like, you didn't say that, but as I was picturing it in my head, I was like, oh, this gluten like gets in your body. And there's like, Jordan, can you find a picture of it's called microvilli, microvilli, and just type in microvilli gluten. You'll get a bunch of like real time anatomy pictures of what it looks like per Mayor's description. Like the small intestine, you'll see all these like little microvilli on it. And what it says is that the science says that the autoimmune disease, in fact, the gluten like doesn't eat away at the microvilli, but it triggers an autoimmune response that just damages the structures from the inside out. And, you can see this on specifically gentlemen who have been drinking alcohol most of the time on a daily basis for a long amount of time. Their microvilli is completely gone. Not completely gone, that might be an overstatement, but it's severely damaged. And you can see the actual inflammation on their belly. It's called beer belly. You see the inflammation just sitting locally on their belly. They might have very skinny arms, but then they have this huge, big, giant belly. It's all inflamed. It's all inflamed internal structures. Can you find it, Jordan? Yeah, show me a picture. Let's see what this looks like. We're taking a journey to the inside of the small intestine, the magic school bus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't there a video in school?
In a magic school. I don't know if that's the actual tune.
I think that was Puff the Magic Dragon.
No,
theme
song. So while Jordan finds that, what recommendations do you have for people dealing with celiac?
Yeah, navigating this can be really intimidating at first. There's the Celiac Disease Foundation is out of Chicago, but they have a lot of great information online as far as resources. They actually do a lot of case studies, and they're testing out a few drugs that maybe one day we could take that would help us if we were going to have cross-contamination. It would help us digest it better, so it wouldn't be like, you're out for 2 days with nausea. It would help combat that pain. And then also other resources I like are the Find Me Gluten-Free app. So while you're traveling, this is a great resource, but people can write in reviews about restaurants that are safe. Usually it's like chain restaurants, or the nicer restaurant, the better, because they take it seriously and they understand it. But people will write their reviews on there. I also love the Yucca app. Places like Thrive Market, if you're like, I don't know where to start, I don't know how to navigate a grocery store, and gluten-free is new to me, or maybe you have a child that needs to navigate that, using a resource like that already has like filters on their website, and you can filter by gluten-free products, I think is really helpful. Other products I love, brands are Simple Mills. Those are all gluten-free. The pancakes are a staple in our house on Saturday morning. I love the Burn Nutrition products. Those are gluten-free. Flav City products, and Siete is probably my favorite. Yeah.
All right, so let's check out this image here. This is the, go ahead and scroll down. Down. Just click on any one of those graphs there. So this is what we're looking at. This is what Mayor's talking about. Yep. Right? So if you can blow that picture up there, Jordan, on the right, we have the normal villi, and then, as the Mayor said, the flattened out from celiac disease. Yep. And you can see that clear. So this is gluten's a naturally occurring compound in wheat, barley, rye, things like that. So it's one of those sneaky things that we didn't know about it for a long time, and people were getting sick and we didn't know why. So this shout out to science, right? Because we're getting
shout out science.
Yeah, we're finding words that describe things that, a lot of times it's like, oh, well, we didn't have these things before in the 70s. How much of it is that we didn't have these things before versus we just didn't have the language to be able to describe them and actually what it is, and things would tend to get chunked into it's hard. I don't know the science behind this at all, but I'm just, as a mere person that's observing the world. Yeah. Like, I have 2 nephews that have autism, and there's a common like theme that like autism didn't exist before X amount of time. Like, we didn't see autism show up, and how much of that is true? I'm a wide open book because I don't know. Right? I'm not sitting here proclaiming to know anything. But it does seem very convenient that as science progresses, we find like names for things, and we get, it just doesn't become like maybe some blanket umbrella term, right? And it gets more bifurcated into these categories, and then gluten is linked. Oh, it's actually gluten that we found is the real problem. So let's give the issue that's causing a name, rather than just what did they call it before, people when they were keeling over at the end of a sporting event, like what did they call that? Exhaustion.
Right.
Yeah. Because you can't imagine that you and only the last 45 years that we've just discovered this. Right. I find that hard to believe, just knowing how resilient like the human body is and how much the same it is. But as we progress over time and we get more insight, well, then we can become more specific with what things are.
And how to solve for it.
Yeah,
right?
and it's clearly exponentially increasing these issues as we find additives and as we find plastics and as we find manufactured, forms of this gluten,
Yep.
we're just getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker, and it's like never stopping. So we're gonna keep on it with you. So this is a lifelong thing for you, right?
This
So
is a
you're
lifelong thing.
and you're just gonna make sure that a gluten-free diet's one heck of a diet to be on.
Yeah.
Because like if having like a low body fat percentage is a byproduct of it, it's a pretty nice byproduct of it.
It is, yeah. And I always
bread.
tell myself this when I'm like, when I want to complain or like hem and haw about it, I'm like, this is my worst health problem and I can control it with a diet. I don't have to take a prescription.
Yeah.
I don't have to have a treatment regularly. Like, I consider myself lucky because if anything, it's just made me really aware about what I'm ingesting. I'm also the cook in our family of 5, and like what I'm purchasing and all the things that we've covered today. That stuff is really, really important to me, and now more than ever, because I have to know what's going in my body, and then it just makes me more aware of what I'm putting in my family's body too. So I take a lot of pride in that, and I also think it's something that anyone can navigate. At first it might be intimidating, but like if you have that, like literally it's your gut that's having that issue and telling you something, you need to listen to that and keep knocking on doors until you get an answer, because I know how frustrating that was for my parents, and then even me after college trying to just get a diagnosis because I knew it wasn't right. And when they tried to tell me, we think you have IBS and we're going to give you this Pepcid prescription because you have heartburn, I was like, I'm 21 years old. I'm not going to be on a prescription for the rest of my life. Like, I'm healthy. I'm going to switch doctors. And like, I did that even at a young age. So that would just be my call out here, is just advocate for yourself. And this is totally something that you can manage and live with, especially in 2024 and beyond. It's super accessible, and you're right. Like, it has made me have great results on my in-body scan. And I'm like, okay, I just make better food choices and I can live with that, you know?
We have a friend, Jim, who is very highly intolerant to gluten, and I'm like, I just need to get on the gym diet. He's shredded all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what? I just need to pretend like I am. It's like self-imposed celiac disease.
Yes.
The first
Try it
time I
out.
met him, he was rolling up from the lake, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Because I need to do that too. I was just like, man.
He's like,
Fish.
I got celiac.
Yeah. Yep, he does.
I love it.
Yep.
All right, everybody, that's a great great spot to stop today. Thank you guys for being here. Mayor, thank you for being here.
Of
Woo!
course. Thank you for
Woo!
having me.
Appreciate
Thank you so
you,
much.
and for all of you listening in there out there today, we appreciate you. Make sure that you subscribe to the Burn Boot Camp podcast and follow us on YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss a single episode. All right, until next time, y'all. We'll see you.
right.
2 claps on 2. 1, 2.
Bye, guys.